I think that lending community needs to take a little bit more responsibility and really do an affirmative outreach to do kind of a real kind of inventory about all of their customers and try to figure out who is at risk. I'm John Choi, the St. Paul City Attorney, and I've been involved with dealing with the mortgage foreclosure crisis in my capacity as I started and founded the National Multi-City Litigation Working Group on Foreclosures. But the City of St. Paul has a mortgage foreclosure prevention hotline that I know has been ringing off the hook, and we do have foreclosure prevention counselors who have been working with these lenders, and we have had some really good success stories. But I think that's the part where basically I think what needs to happen is instead of giving out a 1-800 number and doing that type of approach, I think that lending community needs to take a little bit more responsibility and really do an affirmative outreach to do kind of a real kind of inventory about all of their customers and try to figure out who is at risk potentially who might have a bad product or who might be in a situation where their income is going to dramatically diminish over time. And they should affirmatively try to go out and try to help these individuals, because I think we're all in it together. I mean, one extra foreclosure in the city of St. Paul is not good for anybody. It's not good for the bank. It's not good for the people who live in that particular area. And overall, it's not good for anyone living in St. Paul. So that's what needs to happen. So that's what we are really pushing, is to get some sort of new protocol in place where we are going to really try to do an intervention model and get the lending community to kind of join with us in doing that. I mean, we're doing a lot of that right now in St. Paul through our Planning and Economic Development Department, who have the foreclosure prevention counselors. But I think the lending community needs to step up and really kind of kick this into high gear and do everything that they can. Some cities, what they have done is actually they have commenced lawsuits against the lending community based upon a number of theories. Public nuisance theories, that basically if you're the bank and you register the vacant property under your name, you're the owner, and by letting the property just sit vacant and idle and not doing anything to kind of mitigate that situation, there have been civil lawsuits filed in Cleveland. There's also have been a number of lawsuits filed that are alleging a kind of a discrimination or a reverse kind of redlining approach, where there was a New York Times article that talked about one particular lender in a lawsuit involving Baltimore, the city of Baltimore, where they have introduced evidence as a part of some affidavit testimony that talks about people within the bank who say that they were kind of incentivized to go out and try to find low income and people of color to originate some of these loans that were really unsuitable products for the people who were getting these particular loans. So that lawsuit is still pending. The city of Baltimore, the city solicitor is George Nielsen. He's my co-chair with this litigation working group. St. Paul hasn't taken the step to actually file a lawsuit, but we're working very closely. St. Paul is kind of utilizing a demand letter approach, which is to kind of send out a letter threatening a lawsuit and then working on some specifics, and hopefully we can bring back to the community some sort of document that will show some changes or some positive changes that have been made. The City of Baltimore is involved in the Fair Housing Act discrimination claim, and they've been involved with that for quite some time. But we work together, Baltimore, St. Paul, and all of the other communities that are a part of this coalition, and we share information about what's happening in the particular lawsuits, what legal theories are working, what are not working in court, and we have been spending probably the past year kind of developing potential theories in which the city could actually initiate a civil action, but we haven't gotten to that point, and ultimately that's not my call, that's the call of the elected officials in the city. We sent out letters, demand letters to the lenders that had the highest rate of registered vacant properties in our community. So that was Wells Fargo, MERS Corporation, U.S. Bank, J.P. Morgan Chase, and HSBC were and Deutsche Bank were the six most prevalent lenders that had registered vacant properties in our community. So we started with there, and we've had conversations with all 6 of them. But lately we've had more of a focus on 2 of the banks, which I can't really go into, but we're getting close to maybe a possible agreement on some sort of plan by which we in St. Paul would do 2 things. One is develop an affirmative way where we would intervene with respect to some of these at-risk loans before they become a problem, to actually work with the bank to identify who these individuals might be, and then to make sure that they're getting all possible benefits of what the bank might have today, to kind of do a workout so that we can do a loan modification or whatever it might be to keep them in their home, and so that we don't have to have a foreclosure, because always when you have a foreclosure you always have negative effects. The second thing that we're trying to do is to try to get vacant properties back on the tax rolls as quick as possible. So we're focused on trying to get some sort of kind of a large-scale donation to suitable nonprofits, or maybe even the city, to get these properties rehabbed and back on the tax rolls as quickly as possible.
Of those 6 that you named,
yes,
that you picked as the top 6
yeah,
to work with, did any of them just outright refuse to work with you?
No, they've all come in and met with us. We have focused our energies on 2 of the banks, and we're kind of systematically trying to get to each one of them, but we had initial meetings with all of them. And they all they all understand that I think mortgage foreclosures aren't a good thing, but at the same time, there's all of these things that get us to no. And so we're still working with that. We're trying to understand some of the dynamics that the lending community has with respect to their fiduciary obligations or legal obligations. But at the same time, there's a real pent-up frustration, I think, in the community. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the lending community to really understand that. And I think they do. It's just kind of getting them to take that next step, which might be a little bit risky as it relates to some of the obligations that they might have with respect to the dichotomy between a servicer and a trustee and how that operates. There's actually an agreement that the servicer has with the trustee, and that's a contractual agreement, and they have certain obligations to one another. And they typically will point the finger at one another saying, well, it's their problem, we can't do this because of them, and they'll say, well, we want to do that, but they won't do it. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get them to stop doing that and to really focus on the real outcome that we all want. And I think the lending community wants it as well, which is to prevent as many foreclosures as possible and to get vacant properties back on the tax rolls as quick as possible. You know, we have a conference in October, and actually all of the cities are going to be together in Miami. It's a part of the International Municipal Lawyers Association, which is the association of city attorneys in North America. And we have an annual conference every year. This year it'll be in Miami. And a big part of that conference on Monday, all Monday afternoon, is devoted to the mortgage foreclosure crisis. And then we're going to break out into smaller groups, and those individuals, or those individual cities who have actually joined our coalition, we are actually going to sit down and strategize of kind of what the next steps might be. You know, there are some cities that want to do a major class action against some lenders. There are some communities that want to keep negotiating and see what we can try to get, because litigation, it sounds like a great idea, but there's always some pitfalls to it too. It takes a long time to get resolution. There's uncertainty. You know, we don't know what will happen in front of a judge. So if there's a way in which we can get some lenders to be proactive, right now it seems to be that's what St. Paul's preference is to try to figure out a way to kind of leverage all of our resources working with the other cities to get them to do something that they otherwise would not do.